What's up, everybody, and welcome into the new edition of the Backliners podcast, Aggro and BaRRaCCuDDa, as per usual, in a clean tech so far, which we love to see. Today, joined by Fineokay, and for those who are watching on twitch.tv/prediction esports, you might be noticing this wonderful hat that I'm wearing, this wonderful shirt. It's a little dark in my room, that both Barry and I have on. That's right. It's
very comfy.
Brand new Backliners merchandise. Cue the switch over to this. Hey, there it is. I'm going to post this in the chat in just a minute, but you can get your hands on some Backliners merchandise. We'll be sure, if you're listening to this, that we'll put it in the description and all that kind of stuff. And you can catch it on our Twitters as well. But yeah, come in. It's a great way to support the show. You get our sweet little logo, and everyone will be like, what's that? And you'll be like, yeah, it's a Smite podcast. And they'll go, Smite? And then you'll be stuck in a conversation for like 20 minutes.
It's like League of Legends.
Right. It's just like League of Legends, except smaller. That's what I always say. It's like a less popular League of Legends. Dude, I went to get ice cream last night, and I'm wearing the Smite. This is such a funny story. I'm wearing the Smite Season 7 World Championship hoodie. And the guy who's like working the register, he's like, holy crap, Smite. This is literally right across the from the studio, by the way. He goes, holy crap, Smite. Like, World Championships, did you win? And I was like, no, I didn't. And I'm there with Mike. And I look at him.
No.
I look at him and I go, no, not quite. Anyways, it was very funny. Shout out to that guy who apparently played Kali in Arena a whole lot. I don't know. He said he didn't play anymore. He was like, yeah, I used to play, but I don't anymore, because my computer doesn't really have the room. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that. You know, like, you could change that if you wanted to.
Did you go into like your whole backstory, or just like?
God, no.
Okay, good.
No, God, no. No. It was, yeah. Can I get my caramel pretzel swirl quite yet, sir? You know, as
Please get me out of here.
True podcast listeners know that I got caramel pretzel swirl. Fine. You've had pretzels and ice cream before, right? Like, it's objectively good.
You've had pretzels before,
I mean,
right?
You mean like pretzels dipped in ice cream, or just pretzels combining with some ice cream on the side?
Have you been to Andy's frozen? It's like a custard place. Okay, yeah. Go to Andy's, get a caramel pretzel swirl. It's gonna be a lot of caramel and some little pretzel pieces swirled up in your custard, and you're gonna be like, man, Aggro is so much smarter than everyone thinks he is, and everyone already thinks he's the smartest. So like, I didn't think he had any more headroom, but he did apparently.
I mean, I love pretzels, so
Yes.
you've had Auntie Anne's or whatever, right?
Yes, dude. Annie Ann's pretzels are good. That's the only reason that you go to a mall, right?
Yeah, that's literally, and some lemonade. That's all. That's the only reason.
That's just the best, man. Shout outs to whoever DM'd me, by the way. I got a DM this week saying, hey, I was a doubter. I went and got pretzels in my ice cream, and you were right. It's delicious. So shout out to that guy. All right, let's talk Smite for a little bit, shall we? I suppose that's kind of what we're here to do. I know it wasn't our last episode that we talked about 8.3 patch notes, and now we're going to be talking about 8.4 patch notes, but that's just kind of what you get.
It's a patch note show.
Patch note show. All right, that's what we're here to do. Let's talk. Do you guys want to start with the patch as a whole, or do you want to start with the new god, Gilgamesh, King of Uruk?
New god for me.
New god.
Yeah, I think that works. I like new god first. Well,
we have Fineokay on the show because he has a mustache, number one. And number two, because he's a solo laner, and that's where I think Gilgamesh is going to see a decent amount of play. Though I'll talk about where else I think you can see play in a little bit. Fine. What were your initial impressions of Gilgamesh? How have you liked him on the PTS?
I played him a good bit, and I was having a ton of fun with him. That's part of the reason I played him so much. Is just, I mean, sometimes I'll play a new god and I'm like, this seems kind of fun, but maybe it's just not for me. Maybe it's more like a mid laner god, or maybe somebody, a different role. But I was having a lot of fun with him, and I think what's so cool about him, it's kind of similar to Set and Horus, where like their kits aren't really that complex, and they're kind of simple and straightforward, but the ways that you can play them are like, you can almost play them in more ways than something like an Arthur or somebody, something like that just have a lot of stuff going on in their kit. And I don't know. I just feel like sometimes the simple kits are actually the most fun. Kind of like Onher's another good example. And I just had a ton of fun with him. He seems pretty straightforward, and I don't even think he's that broken. I think people. I mean, it always happens with every new god. We were like, "Oh my god, nerf him is ridiculous! I'm gonna ruin my games." But honestly, I thought he was like maybe a little bit overtuned, but nothing crazy. And honestly, I'd rather have a god be overpowered than horrible on release. So
yeah, that's I think that the designers have talked about that from a general standpoint, that's just a better way to release the gods. I will say it's interesting to me that you bring up that they feel like Set and Horus, because Pon was lead designer for both Set and Horus. This is a Pon god in Gilgamesh. And Pon's usually thought of as like the really complex, like true damage, like Arthur kits and that kind of stuff, but he shows some versatility from time to time. Young Daniel Cooper does, and I agree. I think that Gilgamesh is a really good example of just a kit that flows really well together. Barry, I know you think he must be overpowered because you got a pentakill with him, so he cannot be balanced.
Honestly, I was kind of the same with Fine, where the god was just so much fun to play, and I feel like every other Smite god that's been, I mean, no offense, but like, it just doesn't feel like I'm playing like a different style, I guess. And Gilgamesh felt like I was playing like a Diablo character for some reason in Smite, and he was just so much fun to just run around, just bash people with. I'm also same with Fine. I feel like he's a little overtuned, but not like crazy OP. Because I mean, no one knows how to play against new characters when they come out, and then the initial reaction is, "Oh my gosh, this guy one-shot me. He has to be OP," etc., etc., etc. But yeah, one of the most fun kits I've ever played with, and it's a simple kit, but the kick is so much fun, and he does so much damage, and just super fun kit. That's just like my overall like thought process was just literally I'm having so much fun every time I play this character.
Where you guys both mentioned that you think he's a little bit overtuned. If you had to maybe not even suggest a nerf or anything like that, though you can if you want to, but like where do you think he's a little bit too good? Is it damage output, control, like cooldown's too low? Like what kind of comes to mind first when you think about what makes him really strong?
When I was playing him, I thought his kick damage was a little too high. Everything else kind of felt in line, but I just felt like I was kicking people for 1 million, but I was also going full power build. So I don't know what Fine was building, but I was one-shotting people, and it was enjoyable.
I didn't ever go the full power build. I was just going like just stuff that I think would be viable for solo. I tried like auto attack builds, tried some ability based builds, full tank builds. Dude, you mentioned it, the kick that's part of the reason he's so fun. It's just I mean it's not even that crazy. He literally winds up for a second and kicks, but there's just so many things. You can like stun people in ways, you can hit them against the wall. Every time I did it against the wall, you guys know that scene from The Office where he's like, get up against the wall, biatch. That's what I thought of every single time I did it. And that ability is just really fun. I do think that like it goes along with like him being simple but fun, is that he's just really smooth. Like all of his abilities feel really like natural. He can auto attack, cancel his one, your jump, everything. Actually, in my opinion, I think his ult is a little bit underwhelming, but his 2 is really good. Like Barrett said, the damage is pretty insane. And I also think his 3 is pretty sick because it's just like a really fast leap, and the circle where you land and all the damage that it does is really, really big. Like you can just fill up like the whole fire giant pit with it. And if you have like bluestone and stuff thing, like you're just gonna be instant clearing waves at level 2 with those abilities. So yeah, I think it's just mainly his 2 and his 3. The fact that his 1 is always up seems like, when you think about that, you're like, oh my goodness, that another high res like broken
here they go again.
Yeah, broken mechanic. But honestly, it's not that ridiculous, and it's almost just like it's almost like if he just had a passive that gave him like extra, like an Erling passive basically. So
it's funny you bring up passive, because I was gonna say I've heard a lot of, oh, the passive sucks, like all this kind of stuff. I think the passive is really good, like really, really good. I don't know how you guys feel, but do you feel Barry, are you frozen? What's going on over there? I feel like we might have lost. I think we lost him. Oh, fast forward, and he's back. Welcome back. You were just really intently listening to Fine.
Conquest is great. Shouts to Conquest.
We love him around here. I feel like the passive is super good. Fine, what do you think?
I think it's kind of just in the middle, basically. Like there's some scenarios where, I mean, there's a bit of RNG to it, obviously, because you get a random item, but so it can be good or bad. I don't care too much about how good it is. I like that they're just like, they're adding stuff like that to the game where you literally have to like play a little mini game to get something else. Like some passives, you know, they're literally a passive. I guess that's why they call it that. But like, but this is more of an active passive, if you will. Well, oxymoron maybe, but I don't know. I just like that you have to do something like that it just adds more to the character, and it's still not even that complex. Like, you just win a team fight basically, or walk over there, and I don't. It can make for some fun stuff in the middle of the game happening. Like, I don't know. Like one time, obviously I was playing it in solo. Where I had to go on the map was actually behind the tier 1 in mid lane. And I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, how am I going to go about doing this? And it's like, I just randomly ganked mid one time. I was like, I guess I'll go grab it now. So it's just fun because it can kind of like manipulate the way you play that game specifically. So
yeah, I think it also lets you it gives you an excuse to build a little bit more creatively. And in moments where during playtests and that kind of stuff, there were a lot of times where I'd be playing him and I'd get like Shuriken 1 and you think like, oh, this kind of sucks. But then it's like, well, I just got extra power and attack speed until I need the gold. And then I sell it. And I'm like, who cares? I just got a little mini buff and then some gold afterwards. BaRRa, your thoughts on the passive?
I didn't really feel it was too influential. I thought it was kind of strong if they were easy quests to get or easy like places to go to, because it's just a lot of free gold if you do sell it, and I sold it basically every time. But I didn't think it was too impactful, but I also didn't really think about it that much because I just kind of like walked over there, like it's like a custom game in PTS, so I'm literally just gonna walk over there and get it. Like it's not like a big deal. Like wherever it is, there's one like behind their duo tier 2, I just walked up there and got it. But I think it's probably a little OP if it's on your side of the map. You can just easily acquire it. I don't know if it's like is it like a range thing from you?
So it like detects when you hit level 5 or 6, whenever the passive triggers, it can spawn in a random location near where it's influenced by where you are. Okay. But I'm pretty sure it's weighted. It won't be on your side of the map. Like best case scenario, it could be like near neutral half of the map, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a little bit weighted towards their end.
I had a couple times when I was in solo. It was that new little area where you can walk through blue buff. It was literally right there like twice. So it was actually not too far away. Yeah, pretty easy to get to. But
yeah. You definitely have some moments where it favors you. I will say I had one. I think I had one play test where I got like Gem of Fate, and I was thinking like,
oh, I was about to mention that.
Like that is the best one to get.
900 gold, 10% CDR, and then you get all those awesome items like Pridwin and Erendite. Oh my goodness! I was about to say, I hope I get that when I play him.
Hitting the lottery, baby. I'm gonna pog off on cast if someone's playing Gilgamesh in an SPL game and be like, oh my god, and John Finch is gonna be like, what happened? I was like, he got Gem of Fate from the Gilg passive. This game's over. Like no chance someone could come back from that.
Not gonna lie, I had no idea what you guys were talking about until you said the item.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Arthurian items.
I don't know the name of the items. I know the names of the tier 3s, but like, who knows the other ones, bro?
I mean, I just know it because it's 900 gold for 10% CDR, which is arguably kind of bad. And I just think like, but the
most expensive, so right? It's the most expensive tier 1. Which makes it for the best already. Items. And then you're going to be building like Pridwin on him feels really good for sure. Yeah. Speaking of items that feel good, I think that from and I got a chance to play test a decent amount. I've talked about it on Twitter now, so I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about it. But during the off season, I was working with the dev team, and that meant that I was play testing like a bunch of times. Dude, you mentioned the height and like the Gilgamesh leap. I remember. Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for telling any of these stories, but I think it's fun. The first time I played against Gilgamesh, he went like twice as high with his jump. He literally looked like he was blasting off into space. I was like, what the heck was that? Like he like came over mid lane wall, and I was like, oh my god, what is that? It was so funny.
The same speed or?
Yeah, he literally like it was maybe a little bit slower, but it looked like I was getting chalk-ulted from the heavens. Like every time he jumped, it was fearsome. I was like,
it reminds me of the superhero landings, from, like, the movies, which is why I think it's really cool.
Yeah. It definitely feels really good. But I will say that he felt the strongest to me with something along the line, kind of like an Amaterasu-esque build, where you go Ninja Tabby, maybe a Frostbound Hammer, something like that, a Talisman of Energy, try and pump up that attack speed a little bit, and then be able to be pretty sticky. Fine, you mentioned you tried a lot of builds. Do you have a favorite that you tried?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because it's like PTS, and you can kind of get away with a lot of stuff. But I went a couple games. I went kin size, so I went kin size, animosity, stone cutting frostbound and just like a void shield and then maybe like another tank item. And that felt really, really good. I was like one-shotting people and still pretty tanky. That's the build that I enjoyed the most. But I think honestly, you could probably just go like bluestone on him and go like a full CDR tank build with like a Pridwin and just like all the nice tank items like like shifters and Ansel and stuff like that. And
all those nice tank items.
tank items, but they're 30 magical prots, but 60 power. But yeah, you can go build like that, I think, and it will work really well as well. I think he's got a few ways to play him.
Barry, what was the pentakill build? Because obviously that's just the best one. I only have 5 just to embarrass him here.
Here, let me go search it up. I think I was just buying all of the highest power items, including shifters, which I mean is kind of
Shifters
tank
good?
items. Am I right? Yeah.
Yep.
Love those tank items. It was Erendite, Crusher, Soul Eater, Trans, Heartseeker, and Shifters.
Okay.
I was more doing it for the memes than like a real actual good build, but pretty fun.
Yeah, fair enough. Before we move on to some of the other like balance changes and that kind of stuff, there is an update to the Conquest map in 8.4. It gets it becomes night. It's I forget what the story.
I was a little sad about that.
The story beat is it's different, and even if I personally prefer the darker map, but I understand why people wouldn't. But I think even if it were changing in a way that I thought was worse than what it was coming from, I think the ability, just like feeling like it's dynamic, even by playing on like a different lighting for a couple patches, even if I think it is slightly worse.
Just keep your brightness on your PC.
Right, just turn it up. Just get closer, shine a flashlight on it. Like it should be fine. What do you think about the darker skybox doesn't actually change much for gameplay, but the vines added in the jungle for the first 15 minutes of the game. How do you think that's gonna feel?
Where are the vines exactly?
You can find it on the 8.4 patch notes, which I'm gonna post in the chat right now. But
are they all over the map or like on the centralized?
They're in the centralized part. So think of it as if you draw a horizontal line through the map that goes through like Gold Fury and Fire Giant. They are on each end of that equator line, basically, all across it. So from Gold Fury all the way towards right side mid harpies, there are vines that will spawn.
It's like where the ADC, like say one team is pulling gold, the ADC walks in to check. It's like right there, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. You'd either have to break the vines or walk around in order to see it. And the vines are not hard. Or by Phantom. Actually, I don't even know if Phantom would work. I don't know if they're player deployed.
Yeah.
I
That'd be funny though. Imagine you just walk through the vines. I'm here, guys.
Just shimmy on through there. So they do function like player-made walls. It actually says right here.
Okay.
So what are some early thoughts? How much do you think this changes jungle pathing, skirmishes in the jungle, that kind of stuff?
What's the respawn timer on them?
They respawn, the mid-harpy ones respawn when the mid-harpies respawn. So even if you, so the walls respawn when the adjacent jungle camp respawns, even if killed only seconds beforehand. And that's so it's Oracle's mid-harpies are the triggers.
I would honestly have to play on it for a bit to get used to it. I mean, walls obviously change Smite every time they're put in.
Yep.
I think it's 2 basic attacks to kill a wall, right?
Correct.
And I mean, obviously you get screwed by the walls a lot, or they can help you out a lot. I think it just changes Smite. I don't know if it's a good or bad change. Obviously it makes gods with jumps better in certain situations, but yeah, it's hard for me to say how much it actually changes it without playing on it for a bit.
Fair enough. Fine. Are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more pessimistic about it because I just feel like we kind of, I mean, obviously it doesn't really close out the map that much because you can destroy them, but we kind of just open up the map more, and then we're already like adding a little bit of stuff to maybe not. Obviously, it doesn't make it smaller, but it maybe closes things off. Yeah, it constricts it a little bit more. I think it can have some cool gameplay aspects. Like, say, imagine you're getting chased around by like a tank. Cerberus, like Cerberus support, right? And you run over to the Gold Fury and you're like a carry and you have a leap. Oh, I guess Cerberus has a leap. He's a bad example. But say you're just getting chased by a tank, you use that wall to your advantage. Like it's gonna take a while for a Guardian to walk up to that and just like hit it,
Right.
So I think there's some things you can do with it, but in my honest opinion, I think I'm just a little pessimistic about it, but
Sure, fair enough. All right, let's get into some of the balance changes. We'll start with the items because that's what comes up first whenever you're scrolling down patch notes. Ornate Arrow. It now has base 10% attack speed and 5% critical strike chance. Decreased the maximum stack count from 25 to 20, and increased the amount that you get per stack on both attack speed and crit. So you get 25% attack speed at max stacks, 20% crit at max stacks, but now it actually has some base numbers on there. BaRRa, does this make this Ornate Arrow more attractive? I think that this is probably one of the least purchased ADC upgrades.
I actually already like that item, so I mean, it just got better.
Easy for you.
Yep.
Just smurfing on them, huh?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Gilded. I've been a big fan of Gilded the whole time it's been out. And then I played against the super OP Death Toll Berserkers build, and I got absolutely tarnished. And that build felt terrible, and then yada yada got nerfed, and I'm back in love with Gilded now.
There it is. Gilded's the place to be. But if you go Leather Cowl, now you have a new option to upgrade into Leader's Cowl. It now provides 15% attack speed, and the passive is different now. It says, you provide 5% increased power to all nearby allied gods. This aura gains a bonus stack for each allied god within 55 units, causing it to provide an additional 3% increased power. For each enemy god within 55 units, a stack is removed. So basically, it's very wordy, but that's what you kind of have to do. It gives you 5% power to all nearby allied gods, no matter what. And then if you're grouped up and trying to rush down something like a fire giant or a tower, you get an additional 3% increased power for each allied god that outnumbers the enemies in that area. So does this, for either one of you, fine, I guess we can start with you. Is there any god or any sort of build where you could see Leader's Cowl being picked up now?
Yeah, I kind of like, I messed around with the Hunter's Cowl in solo a little bit with just like auto attack characters like Amma or Vamana, and it's kind of nice, especially, I mean, I guess it's not Leader's Cowl, but the other upgrade, you get 45% attack speed.
Yep.
Just for yourself, and like that's crazy on characters like Vamana or Amma, but I think that definitely makes it more viable, because before it was just more like it was like a win more item. Like,
yep,
it required you to have more numbers than the enemy team, and if you have more numbers, then you're probably going to win the fight anyway.
Yep.
Although there was some niche scenarios, like imagine you're all 5 in base and you just like Newell just purchased some items and you just go into the air with Newell from base and just like one shot everybody with extra power.
You can, dude, it's like you can do the same thing now, right? Because it's just increased power. Like,
yeah,
you're feeling good.
Yeah, you could do that. Maybe like on Nike or something, combo with her passive, just increase power always. But the only problem I see with the item is that it still has the physical lifesteal on it, right? Plus the 300 health. So on character like warriors and stuff, physical lifesteal is not really that great because your autos aren't going to be hitting that hard, and a lot of your damage comes from item effects, like whether it's like mystical, Pridwin, thorn, stuff like that. You're not actually lifestealing off of any of that. So lifesteal in general for tanks isn't very, very good. So I think that might be the only thing holding it back for like solo lane. But maybe you could see this on some ADCs that are trying to be more, team oriented.
Yeah, I think if Leather Cowl becomes the go-to starter and you're running a double hunter, you don't really, the auras wouldn't stack from Hunter's Cowl. So if one of you goes Hunters, one of you goes Leather, you end up with a ton of attack speed and a ton of power. You're probably feeling pretty good about that. BaRRa, any consideration of Leader's Cowl over Hunter's Cowl?
This item seems really, really, really strong on paper right now. Like,
especially for like fire giant fights. Like,
yeah, I'm just imagining like a Fafnir with Girdle, and you're all grouped trying to burn fire, and you have a secure mage, and that thing's dead in like 3 seconds.
Yep.
That seems kind of scary from a competitive standpoint, kind of terrifying. But actually, I mean, it seems pretty good. That's a ton of bonus power, and the attack speed's pretty nice as well. And I think it will also be good in kind of death ball-y comps where you want to fight as 5 more than your front line diving forward, and everyone's just kind of like holding hands in the team fight. I think it will be good there. Or if you just want to play more like spread out team comp, if you know their front line's going to be diving you, and you know your front line doesn't have to dive them, they can just play back. I think it will also be good in that scenario. But ADC players aren't that smart, especially me, so I don't know if I will actually be purchasing this item when Ornate Arrow's in the game, and I can see like, oh, I can just like automatically get these stats. That seems pretty cool.
Yep.
But I mean, on paper, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like, that actually seems like such a good item.
Excited to see if it gets bought, because I don't think I've seen a single Leader's Cowl in all of Season 8 so far. Personally.
Never purchased it, so.
All right, Sentinel's Embrace. That's the Sentinel's upgrade. This one's a bit, there's a lot of numbers changes, but it's increased passive aura range from 30 to 55 units, increased its protection for physical and magical, both from 20 to 30, decreased protection split among all nearby allies from 100 to 80, and decreased protection gain while alone from 50 to 40. So even though it has a couple of numbers that say increased, in particular, that increasing the passive aura range is oftentimes a nerf for this item, because you can't just stand next to your hunter and split your protections evenly with them. You end up accidentally tagging the jungler or the solo laner or the mage whenever they really needed those extra prots. Do you think that, I guess the only question though for this, obviously this item's still very good with these changes. Is it enough to make it not the go-to? And keep in mind that we're going to be talking about the compassion upgrade here in a minute, which also got a buff. But do you think this is enough to knock Sentinel's Embrace from its obvious #1 spot?
To me, it kind of seems like a shift. It doesn't really seem like that big of a nerf. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's a nerf for... I think it's a pretty big nerf for characters who aren't building Sentinel's Embrace. Like, it's a nerf for if your support got it, but you're the hunter. Like, you get a lot less protections, and not a lot less, I suppose, but less protections, and they're often going to be split more. But if you're the character buying the Sentinel's Embrace, I think the idea is that you won't feel like you got majorly nerfed.
Honestly, from my perspective, it seems like the range helps it more than it hurts it. Because I don't know how many situations where this person with Sentinels wants to give it to their backline, and it's also affecting their front line at the same time. I feel like if you want to give it to your backline, you can kind of force that fight and force that situation to happen. Yeah, it just seems like a shift to me, not a big nerf. I'm not a sword player, obviously.
You're just a Shang-Chi player.
Just Shang-Chi main, bro. That got so OP.
Or Ganesh, I thought.
And, dude, I actually knocked Ganesh out of the pool. Cause
no, the Banesha is down?
Because he's horrible?
Yeah, that god kind of sucks right now. You literally do nothing. You can't even kill carries anymore. Anyways, it's a shift, in my opinion. It doesn't seem too bad.
You could totally kill carries. You just go binding and then you get a Magus later on, and you one-shot carries for free.
Yeah, and then you also get one-tapped.
Yeah, who cares?
Because they're like, oh, this guy's building offense, so I'm just going to build crit now and one-tap.
Who cares? They spent so much gold on crit. That's a win for us. My team should play around it.
Just play Shing-Ten.
All right,
that god's OP.
Fair enough.
I promise that god's OP.
Begging Jake and Haddix to play it, like, please, guys. It is so OP. Good luck convincing Jake. What do you think, Fine, on the Sentinels change?
I think I kind of agree with Barry. It's definitely just a bit of a shift. I think I can see the scenarios where maybe you could consider a nerf because it's just extending more and you're splitting it more. But there's so many play styles right now where the support is like not even peeling their backline, you know, and like if he's in the middle of the fight or maybe even just like kind of far away and he's still giving it to the ADC who's maybe playing pretty far up, or maybe it's like a Tiamat who's kind of in the middle of the fight as well, like then maybe you could see it's actually a buff. But yeah, I think it's just more of a shift, and you're about to talk about it, but I think the fact that Compassion's getting a lot better is actually just makes both the items more purchasable, and like it's not just Sentinel's Embrace every game. Although I will say that Compassion was being bought a good bit even before these upcoming changes, so I guess we'll see if it is maybe overtuned now. Yeah,
Benevolence has seen a lot of buffs, and now Compassion getting another one. Increase the passive aura range from 40 to 70 units. Increase its magical protection from 40 to 60. It increased the HP 5 from 30 to 45. I think the biggest change here for me is that extra 20 magical protection, because the damage that you take on the redirect comes in as magical damage. So you end up getting tankier to that damage that you're redirecting, which obviously feels pretty good. I don't know. I from day one, I've been saying that I'm pretty sure that in some, even though Sentinels was more gold by a lot initially, Benevolence got a buff recently to give it some more gold. And just giving golden experience away to the hunter, there's going to be some way to spike someone to level 4 or level 5, a wave early or a camp early or something like that. And pro players are good enough now that that's something that they can play around.
Now.
Yeah, now. When BaRRaCCuDDa won a championship in season 1, no one would have been playing. No one
was good enough then to play Compassion. Literally no one.
No one was compassionate back then. They were all just mean.
Yeah,
they were just mean.
No
Awful
chance.
People.
I don't know.
Prime. Ugh.
Barry, let me phrase the question to you in an ADC way. Do you want your support buying Sentinels, or do you want that extra gold and stuff from Benevolence and then Compassion?
I mean, you already know Jake's not gonna buy Benevolence.
Nope.
So I don't know why you're asking me this. Like,
Well, which would you want? Which would you ask him to buy, and then promptly get ignored?
I think Compassion is insane. Like, 45 HP 5 is a pretty high number.
That's a lot of HP 5.
The range increase is insane. I mean, you just got so many free stats.
Yep.
Like, that seems OP. I think support players will still be kind of on the fence about purchasing this over Embrace, but it definitely makes it more attractive. I think it's not like 100% buy Compassion every game, I don't think. But, I mean, it's definitely looking pretty good. And I was a big fan of Benevolence and Compassion before, and I think it's insane right now. Like, you should be buying this.
Yeah.
Especially on, like, supporty gods. Supporty gods.
Yeah.
I think you should just be buying this. I think it's really good.
Yeah, agreed. I think this item is very strong. All right, on to Sundering Axe, a change to take it away from my class and give it back to Alex's class, unfortunately. Decrease the bonus damage from 10% of the enemy's current health to 5% of the enemy's current health, plus 2% of your total protections from items. So no longer will mages be skipping starter items in order to just buy Sundering Axe. Instead, it's back in its tanky role. But is it good enough to compete anymore, Alec? This was kind of dominating at the very beginning of Season 8. Got the Warrior's Axe got nerfed. Now Sundering Axe has gotten changed. I think in my mind it's still strong whenever you get it as a warrior, but you're not building as many protections as you used to because all the hybrid items are so good. So is it good enough to compete?
Yeah, it's kind of got that same situation as Hide of the Nemean, where there's just so many good bruiser items, but there's not a lot of items that just give you a ton of protections. There's like Mantle, Urchin, Thebes, but all three of those items are pretty greedy. So it's kind of in that same spot where, like, if you're building full tank and you have like a Glad Shield and like a Sundering Axe, you're going to hit pretty hard still, but is it enough? I mean, it does cap at 14%, right? So it's actually a buff for warriors that build enough protections, or I guess any tank. But they're also buffing Bluestone, so it's kind of like a trade-off. Like, I think it kind of makes sense though that they buff Sundering Axe when Bluestone's also getting buffed, so it kind of just gives you options. Just the only problem with this item right now is that with the fact that, like, the thing about Bluestone is that it gives you a crazy early game, but also the base stats, it gives you a ton of HP 5 and MP 5. So even if you get poked out in the lane because they have maybe they're just like a little bit tankier than you, the health that you get back from Warrior's Axe doesn't even compare to the HP 5 you'll have all game from a Bluestone. You know what I mean? So it's almost like Bluestone's tanky stats are almost as good as Warrior's Axe stats, and it's just going to give you so much better early to mid game. So I don't know if this item will actually be purchased too much. The only times I would say maybe it's purchased is if you skip your starter item, so you don't have that bad early to mid game, and you can kind of just buy Sundering Axe later on in the game.
Yeah.
But the only problem with that is that if you're going to skip your starter item, you might as well go Boombas, because Boombas is
so valid.
Ooh, Boombas. Yeah. That one seems to be pretty good. We're seeing that a lot in the SEC and that kind of stuff.
How is it dodging all the nerfs, by the way? Just wondering.
Yeah, it's good. It's just that I think the jungle, in my mind, from my perspective, the jungle starter items just received so much like balance on the initial the base versions, and Bumba. I think a lot of the feedback was that now Bumba's dagger feels really underwhelming in comparison to especially Eye of the Jungle, but Mannequins as well. So the only reason that you'd go Bumba's is for the upgrade, but the upgrade is so much better than every other upgrade.
You can also rush boots with Bumba's, right?
Yeah, you get to go boots too. Which is
good. Insane, by the way. You have full boots at 2 minutes on the map.
Level 3, gank one of the side lanes for a free
kill.
Yeah,
that's fun to play around.
That feels pretty good. I would assume that Bumba's is going to be a topic of conversation for sure, because it has been very, very good. But I also think that trying to, for me, it's bringing. I think Bumba's hammer in my mind definitely needs a nerf, and then Bumba's spear as well. Like, what does that item even do?
Stamp
Does
popping
anyone
up
even
instantly
know
in
what
the
that
chat.
item does? I honestly don't. Like, I'm starting to prep for SEC and that kind of stuff. Couldn't tell you what stats are on Bumba Spear or what it does. Like,
Okay, let me guess here. I think it's
Okay.
60 physical power, 90 magical power,
I'm pulling it
something else, and then the passive is you do 30%. 30. I think you
something
do
else.
30% more damage to every like jungle boss on the map. The only reason I know that is because if you go on Mercury and you have a crit build, you one-shot fire. Like you do it so fast.
That does seem
But-
decent. Let's see.
But I don't think it's a.
But what jungler wants to do objectives, right? Like no jungler really
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
to hit that objective. Like
Right.
Yep. Sam in the
Ah,
chat, of
so
course,
bad.
defending Bumbas, but he does bring up a
pop
good
out of
point.
nowhere.
Bumba's Dagger base stats, 50 health, 50 mana. That's the base
Buff-
stats for Bumba's Dagger.
Buff Bumba's dagger, increase the cost, and nerf the hammer.
Write that
The
down.
hammer
Write
is-
that down.
The hammer is really
SpongeBob
fun.
voice.
It's just a fun item to have in the game, so you should definitely be careful with how they do it.
Yep.
But
No, just kill it. Just knock it down a little bit.
Fineokay
Very-
thinking about how he can play Athena solo with Bumbas, like, come SPL time.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah, that's fun. But Barry, just go Boombas on ADCs. You don't have to complain.
Bro, I've actually been thinking about that. It's
Yeah.
so OP.
Yeah.
No way it's worth it to go. Your base stats, as Sam pointed out, are
No.
50-50 on health and mana.
Skip it. You just
Yeah, skip it. Just
What
go
would
like
you
trans
start?
2 start.
Trans
Trans
2
two.
start? Yeah, I guess
And
you
then
could.
go like a chalice or something, unless you don't need the chalice to slam all that HP pots.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you really don't have cooldowns when you go that item, bro. Like,
Yeah.
It's pretty good. That's where I'm gonna leave it. It's pretty good. So is Bluestone, as Alec mentioned, a buff.
oh yeah, sorry.
Bluestone pendant 10 to 15 on the base version on the physical power, 25 to 75 on the passive. I think that it's pointless to say is this item really good now. It's obviously very good. Is it so much better that you wouldn't consider another starter, particularly in solo? But also, BaRRA, for you, is it so good that you would consider going it on ADCs now? Fine, we can start with you.
I would say that it's not so good that you just have to purchase it every game. But the only reason I think that, and the only exception I think, is because of Tainted Steel.
Yeah.
The upgrade for Tainted is just so sick late game. Not only because of healers, but mages have Soul Gem, people have Lifesteal, ADCs have Death Toll plus Dev Gloves. Like there's just so much healing in the game. Mail of Renewal. That just having a 50%. It's not an aura because you actually have to hit people to do it, but it's basically an aura because you're in the middle of the fight. You're hitting a lot of people. Having that late game is actually, I think, definitely better than just doing a good bit of more damage with the Bluestone upgrade. And I will say that it's a little bit troll to me that they buff the power of Bluestone when it's already purchased on pretty much every warrior, and it already gives you the best clear in lane, gives you the best early game, gives you a lot of pressure. So I think maybe buffing the base of it was a little bit unnecessary. I will say that, but I don't think this is gonna completely put it over the top. I don't know how much, like, I want to see, like, let's just say I play Arthur late game with this and just hit an ADC with 8 abilities. How much damage are they gonna take from Bluestone? I haven't done the math at all.
A lot.
A lot.
All of it. They'll die.
Yeah.
Looking like a big number to me.
If they don't
Well,
have
keep in
relics,
mind-
you kill them.
They have a compassion on them. They have a shell. They have a
Oh,
lotus crown hitting
yeah,
them. They have a
everything's
Sobs.
up.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they're gonna DDoS you midway through as well. Like,
Yeah.
you got a lot of
Conquest
stuff.
already hit me.
right. Barry, I mean, on gods like Uller, AMC, Medusa, like Bluestone characters in the past, are these buffs enough to make you consider it over some of the other ADC options?
Probably not. I just think Devos. I'm just going Bluestone Devos, which would be kind of weird.
That would be kind of
But
weird.
I think Devos is just too strong, and I think if you go Bluestone, you're always like mentally trying to build into a more power cooldown build to obviously get the procs more, and then if you're upgrading it as well, you want the procs more.
Yep.
I just think the other stars are a bit too good. I might play around with it a little bit, but I mean the gods that you listed I don't think are great right now anyways.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to do a little bit of testing with it.
All right, and last item to cover, alternate timeline. Didn't decrease the internal cooldown on the passive from 10 minutes to 6 minutes. What's the number? I think you and I have talked about this before, Barra, on the podcast, but I can't remember because my brain doesn't work.
We literally said this, by the way.
Was it 6 minutes? That
Yeah, it
was
was
the number
6
that
to
we're
7.
comfortable with? I think that you could make this item 5 minutes and it would be fine. 4 minutes is where it starts to scare me a little bit. And then anything below that I think is clearly OP. Fine, can you give us your scale kind of like that? Like where it's, you know, okay, good enough to see play, and then like OP or scary?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Like, I guess I was gonna say
the res amount? Sorry. Like how much health are you getting back?
Let me check.
Is it like 30%?
I thought it was 25 or 30.
Probably something like that.
Let's see. 25% health and mana.
Okay.
Okay.
You actually get refunded mana as well.
Yep.
That's kind of cool. I don't know what the scale would be. It's weird because I don't think it could ever be an item that you're just like, oh, let's buy this every single game, because it's just like, unless it was like, I don't know, you're rezzing every 3 minutes. But it doesn't make you do more damage, and mages, like, you know, usually a mage's job is to just do tons of damage.
Yep.
So it might be more valuable to just do more damage with your initial abilities than survive a little bit longer in a fight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know if there's like a scale for it that would be great, but I don't know. That's a tough question. I would probably say 6 minutes might be actually a pretty good spot for it, because then it might be in a spot where you can use your relics in the fight, and then maybe if you fight right after, you'll have that up instead, and it might help you out a little bit.
Yep.
But I don't know. The problem with the item is that if you just get rezzed in the middle of a fight and you respawn really fast, like it's only like a 1.5 second until you respawn.
1.75.
1.75. Like that's not that slow, but it's also not that fast. I feel like you're just gonna respawn, get killed pretty quickly. If it took like 5 seconds for you to respawn, and then the tanks are like, okay, we can't really focus this guy. Like we're not just gonna sit here while we're getting hit by everybody else.
Right.
Then I think it would make the item a little bit more viable, maybe even OP. But who knows?
I will say that I'm curious. I think at 6 minutes, it's worth experimenting with characters like Morrigan, where you can get value out of going into the backline as a mage, suiciding for your damage, and then coming back, and you still would have some sort of utility to provide and like damage that you could pump out. But I think it's always going to be high risk, high reward, because the stats are horrible. But getting an extra rotation of damage out would be really strong. This is going to win. I hope this prediction's correct, but I think Alternate Timeline is going to win an SPL game for a team at some point, and that's going to be awesome. I think that would be sick. And it's going to be really not sick for the players on the other team, because they are going to baby rage about it for sure. Stupid Alternate Timeline. We killed him once. We had to kill him again. Like all that kind of nonsense. I hope it's good enough to win a team a game, because I think it would be cool.
Imagine a meta where it's just like bot every game, so you just like start picking characters to counter. Like you pick Scylla, you're like, all right, hold your Scylla ult until he rezzes, then you're gonna get the reset.
Yep,
you're gonna get the reset in for free.
Again. Yep.
Your BaRRaCCuDDa, it's just a buff to BaRRaCCuDDa, honestly, because he's gonna be 25% out. But
that's too easy for Rod, and it needs the buff. To be clear, Rod sucks.
Yeah, it does.
All right, we have to run before we get into the gods. We're kind of running out of time, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna run a quick ad. With my amazing technical skills, as always. Then we're going to come back. We're going to rush through all the gods, and then we're going to get out of here so we can go about our lives. All right, we'll be right back here on the show. Bang. Look at this ad work.
Join Ignition Casino, your go-to destination for the best online poker, table games, progressive slots, and much more. Sign up with the promo code Ignition777 and deposit using Bitcoin to get 25 free spins on 777 Deluxe.
Bang. That's how we do it. Nice and ugly, because that's how we do. All right, so let's get into the gods. We're going to kind of rapid fire these. Achilles, pretty good buff. Lost a second of cooldown on his 1 and decreased the bonus damage taken on his ult from 10% to 5%. Where does this put him in the solo lane meta hierarchy here? Fine.
I'd say he's just like an A tier god. He's still probably around A tier. Kind of feel like he's not useless late game because he has an execute, but I don't know. I feel like there's so many other characters that just do a whole lot more at being annoying to their backline.
Yeah, but how many other characters let you be on every highlight reel forever for rotating mid and getting a quadra execute? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true. Okay, maybe he's SS.
Bacchus, big chug buffs, decrease mana cost from 40 to 20 at all ranks, decrease 2 seconds off the cooldown, 10 to 8. And then increased base damage on the 3 looks like by 5 per tick, which ends up being pretty impactful. BaRRA, you want to see some Bacchus alongside you in the duo lane?
I already thought this guy was pretty good, just because I think Mirrodin's really good on Bacchus, and I think you can kind of one-shot people and play team fights kind of interestingly.
Yep.
But I don't know for SPL if it's actually good enough. I feel like there's a lot of interrupts in the game and a lot of gods that just kill Bacchus, and flopping in is always scary unless it's like a free flop.
Yep.
I think he's all right, but I don't think it's really changes too much.
I'm gonna follow up with what BaRRA said with one word why I don't think Bacchus is gonna be meta, and that's Ansile. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just ruins that character.
Boomba's Bacchus though.
True.
That's
Boomba's
something.
Bacchus could be the truth. Yeah,
That's a nightmare.
There you go. Yorm increased the duration of the empowered attack speed buff from 1 second to 1.5 seconds per stack on his 2, and reduced the cooldown on his 3. Was 16 flat, now 16, scaling down to 12 as you level it. Same question from Achilles here. Fine. Where does this leave Yorm?
I don't know. It's a really good question. He kind of in a similar spot as Achilles, where he feels kind of useless late game. As like it's kind of hard to hit your ults, and if you're not hitting your ults, you're pretty much not doing anything. But I do think the fact that that's a 4-second reduction on his 3, maybe you could just be a little bit more annoying in the team fight. Especially because a lot of times you don't even build CDR in this character. So
Do you think
unless you're Nika and you're building Chronos Pendant?
True.
yeah, that's true.
Do you think with the lower cooldown you turn into more of like a setup god than like I would say like an assassin? Because I feel like the one time Zorn was really good was when he was like the Void Stone was like flat pin, and you could build like all those cool flat pin items that one shot squishies.
Yeah.
Do you think he could be more of a tank character now, or?
Yeah, maybe. The only problem is that his other 2 abilities aren't really good as tank abilities.
True.
Like his 2, you can just interrupt a ton. You can just walk out of it a lot of the time. And his 1 is just like a measly slow. And if you're not building damage, it really doesn't do a whole lot.
Yep.
So that's the only issue I'd say. Maybe you can go more bruiser, and maybe go something like alternate timeline on him, so you get your 3 back up after you die.
Interesting.
Every 6 minutes, baby.
There we
We're
go.
working now. Let's go.
It all comes together.
Alternate timeline Yorm coming to a Soul Lane YouTube video near you. Merlin on Dragonfire. The changes overall lost some decreased max stacks on the Dragonfire protection reduction, increased it per stack. It's ends up being 4% at all ranks per tick. Overall, this just makes the Dragonfire damage on gods a whole lot more effective. I know everyone was probably freaking out. I want to remind everybody that Dragonfire Prot Shred no longer works on objectives at all. It is only on gods. And this item, or this ability, sucks doing damage to gods as is. Personally, I think it's fine. Like, it was 3, 6, 9, 12, 15%. Now it's 16% at max stacks all the time. But you're not getting max stacks that often anyways.
I was going to ask you, like, how much are people actually going into Fire Stance nowadays? Because I know a lot of people were just like Ice and Void back in the day.
Yeah, more than it used to be. The flamethrower damage is actually pretty good now. But the vast majority of the time, you're better off in Ice or Void. I would say. If you're going to, like, with Athena being in meta, like, if you get to Athena taunt someone into a Dragonfire and be able to get, like, 4 stacks of this, it's definitely your best option, but you're just so vulnerable whenever you're doing it. Neath, Spirit Arrow cooldown reduction was 15 seconds flat, now 15, scaling down to 13 as you max it. BaRRA, does this make Neath better?
I think she's only good if you're playing a comp that, like, relies on her ult.
Yep.
Like, if you're playing to pick people around the map, then probably Neath's good, but I think a lot of the ADCs that are meta right now kill Neath very easily, and 1v1s anyways, so if you're playing Neath, you're kind of just, like, hoping your ult gets you a lot of value, and hopefully people can come over and defend your purples. I mean, it's cool, and Neath 1 is really good in team fights, but I don't know if this will actually bring Neath in a meta.
I'm sure that you're looking forward to getting Neath ulted more in Solo Lane, fine, if he does become meta. That has to be one of those characters that, like, if I'm a Solo Laner, I would hate when Ao Kuang is meta. I would hate when Neath is meta, like these gods that can... Circuit, right, like free ganks
Dina.
over there. Unlucky on the last one.
I think this character is actually kind of underrated. I think that she's kind of like Chalk, where she's just, over the years, seen so many different, like, small buffs, and then like I think there might be a tipping point. Maybe it's already happened where people start to play her a lot, and then they realize like all those things that they change over the years makes her actually a pretty good character. I will say though, I mean, I do agree with Bear. Like she obviously has some downsides, especially in ADC, but maybe more so in mid is where she might be underrated.
Oh,
Yeah,
true.
agreed.
Yeah. I thought Neath mid was always like pretty good, especially right now. I think she's pretty good, especially with the Bluestone buffs.
I agree. By the way, I call that the Guan Yu effect. Guan got like 7 buffs in a row, and then it was like, holy God, what have we created? Like, this god is just absurd.
Yeah.
He got so many buffs in a row. Oleron increased base power from 38 to 40 and increased the critical strike damage on his passive from 50 to 55. I know you're an Oleron main, Barry. You feeling good about this one?
That character literally sucks.
Unlucky.
That character is literally dog water. Like, you cannot do anything.
Knocks like a fish.
Yeah, you literally buy Spectral and counter a magical character.
Well, I mean, it's physical protection, you know? You're feeling good that way, right?
Yeah, that's great.
It's the meta as well, though, right? Like, if characters like Sobek and Jing 10 weren't so good, and instead it was like Sylvanas was a top pick, or like, I don't know, characters like that just get completely owned by the ult, he'd be a lot better. Yeah. But you just pick the Croc, and you just run at him.
You just get to do it all the time. Serket, this is one of my favorite changes in the patch. Change on the Catalyst passive. Stacks will only be consumed in extra damage dealt if Serket successfully damaged the god. So if it gets eaten by an upgraded Shell or an Aegis, that is a ton of her damage overall, and I think it's going to feel a lot better to play Serket. And then Last Breath increased power scaling from 55% to 70%. I think Serket was in the running for worst gods in the game on Season 8 release. Like, she just felt really underwhelming to me. I think these buffs are pretty big, though. I think that these might be enough to have her see some high-level play. Do you guys think the same?
I hate playing against that character.
Yeah.
So I hope not.
I think all side lanes do, and I mean, I kind of agree. Basically, just like her kit aggro maybe was one of the worst, but now that people are building like hand silent shifters, like that's the bread and butter of Serket builds, honestly. And I think might have to be a little bit careful. We'll see. It's like similar to Terra. You know how like if you Terra ult somebody and the Aegis, like the damage, you can't Aegis it. Like it just waits to pop until you actually are going to be hit by it. So like if Terra had that where you could just Aegis it, she might be a bad character. I guess we could kind of see where this will take her.
Yeah, agreed. You were mentioning Sylvanas earlier on. He's in the patch notes here getting buffed. Increased basic attack damage from 35 to 38.
What is that buff?
Uh-oh, Oleron's back in the meta.
Yeah, Oleron number 1. 15% scaling on verdant growth. The mannequin Sylvanas that absolutely ruined my early Season 8 experiences because they were on my team and it was horrible.
What are these buffs?
I mean, surely Sylvanas solo is going to be coming out soon here, fine.
Do you, Aggro, I don't know if you were casting that game, but do you remember when we played Dig? It was Season 6. It was the very first LAN game of the whole season. And it went to Game 5. It was a 6 set. And Game 4, for some reason, Variety played Sylvanas solo, and I played Geb solo.
I do remember
It was like
that.
we're playing like Kama Arthur. We're playing like Achilles versus Arthur. And then all of a sudden, Game 4, Sylvanas versus Geb.
You were just like, who cares? So we're over it. I do remember that because I remember saying that Variety was on a team with Nate with Ataraxia whenever Ataraxia had his solo stint. And Nate loved playing Sylvanas solo because he always said that Sylvanas had more scaling than Poseidon. That like his ult scaled harder than Kraken, which is numerically true and also not true in practice
but
at
it's
all.
A dot.
Right.
It's a dot. Dots are always worse than burst damage.
Exactly. So I don't know. This Sylvanas buff does not. It feels like a small nod towards the Sylvanas mains and a good luck because it's.
I don't understand this.
I mean, the increased basic attack damage by 3. Remember, it's AOE, so it does like.
It is.
Yeah.
What?
Tiamat.
It's AOE.
Oh, I thought very being sarcastic. I thought he was like.
I know. I didn't think Bear had any acting chops. Apparently, he has a little bit. I just thought he was a stupid ADC. That's all there is.
Keep in mind, he can take purple buff as well. So not only is it increased 3, but it's increased 3 per whatever amount of seconds purple
Bear,
buff gives you.
Who do you play week 1 in SPL?
Sanguine.
The Leviathans, you mean?
Leviathans.
Man, I hope Rongu picks Sylvanas, picks up purple, and absolutely rams it down your throat.
Also, this patch comes out like 3 days before we play.
Yep.
So that's
Should be
just
fun.
unlucky, you know.
Should be fun. Tiamat, a whole lot of nerfs. I don't feel like reading all these, to be honest with you, but a nerf on her passive, she's less tanky. A nerf on her serpents, they push worse. A small buff on Summon Storm because that wasn't feeling particularly impactful. Overall, Tiamat feels after this round of balance changes. I've seen you playing her a lot.
Yeah. I actually have a big gripe with this change because I think that she is really, really good in mid, but just like a okay solo laner, maybe not even okay, maybe even like less viable.
Yep.
And this basically removes all of her potential in solo lane because you have to build up to 600 magical power to get all of her mitigation.
Yep.
And that's not something you can really do as a solo laner unless you're trolling your team or maybe you have a frontliner somewhere else, like in jungle.
Yep.
So it kind of hurts her solo lane potential a lot. And I think it just kind of removes a little bit of variety from the character. And I think what they personally could have done was just made it scale off levels so that early game you're not as you don't get as much mitigation, but late game you still get similar mitigation and it doesn't really hurt the way you have to build her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's interesting.
That's good.
Barry, you think Tiamat good, not overrated? What?
Honestly, for ranked and everything else, she's kind of been across the board for me. Like sometimes she pops off and she's absolutely insane. Then other times I'm like, this character is like not doing anything, like
Yep.
actually useless. And I can't really tell exactly what scenarios those are. It's just like some games I'm like, oh, I'm getting one tapped and she's unkillable. In other games, I don't even see her in a team fight. Like, where'd she go?
Right.
I think this might push her out from competitive. We'll see. But I mean, split pushing is obviously always good, and being able to force things around the map is always good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just weird. I think it might have jumped the gun a little bit, but yeah.
Can we agree, by the way?
confused.
I know I got into it on Twitter with Wilfie, but he said that Tiamat was the best god ever released in Smite's history. We can all agree that that's a preposterous take, right?
yeah, that's
incorrect.
ridiculous.
Thank you. Okay. My blood pressure rose instantly thinking about it.
Woosah.
Finally, last but not least, Zhang Kui actually gets a pretty significant buff here. Increase the magical power scaling per tick on Expose Evil. That's his one, from 15% to 20%. That nets him on that ability. It was 75% of your magical power. Now it's 100% of your magical power. This ability, when Zhang Kui was being played by filthy degenerates like John Salter in the duo lane just not that long ago, it was because I think a big reason of it was because Expose Evil was really strong. Then it was that it was always off cooldown, but now the damage going back on it, I think Zhang is already kind of underrated. I think he might be legitimately good with this change. Fine, you're
That
not.
character's just bad. Oh, sorry.
No, you think he's bad?
Dude, yeah, you just sunder him, and then what?
What do you mean?
It's so easy to get sunder on so many
it's-
characters now.
That's true, but I think that's all. I mean, you've always been able to do that, Zhang. Just kill him, lol. But but to be fair, like it depends on how much damage he does. Like if he can do a bunch of damage to all 5 people while being killed, like a lot of times that'll instantly win you the fight.
Yeah.
And I think this is a big buff, and I was nodding at Aggro because I was gonna say I think he's probably one of the most underrated characters right now, especially in my role. Like I don't know, you said BaRRa, but I'm pretty sure the reason BaRRa played Zhang is because I started playing it in solo, and I was building like Pythags, Binding, and then I think the first person to do it was Funball. They started playing it in duo, and then people were like, "Oh my god, this is so annoying in OP," and then they nerfed him and nerfed the items and stuff like that. But I love this character, so every chance I can to maybe bring it back to the meta, I'll try. So maybe you'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this character as well, but I think you just die.
Yeah.
Alternate timeline. Alternate timeline.
Alternate timeline, baby. Wait, will the ghosts still go out while you're timelined? They might.
No way. No way.
No shot.
No.
There's no way.
Literally no way.
Some
That'd be
testing
so
to
insane.
be done. That would be good. That'd be sick. I wouldn't even be mad about that interaction. It would probably need to get nerfed, but I wouldn't be mad about it. Like,
Just buy it on Persephone, so you kill her, and then you kill her, and then she still plays the game.
there you go. That's all you got to do. Nice and easy. All right, time for a random question. And oh no, I didn't think of one. BaRRa messaged me a question about Ice Age. I haven't seen Ice Age in too long. Don't want to talk about it. So instead, I'm just going to bring it up awkwardly and then move on.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
BaRRa, how come you never think of these questions? How come it's always on me?
It's not my job. Hello?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
You're a
Why
co-host
don't
of the podcast, right?
You literally come to every episode like, oh my gosh, I have the best question today. And you just hold it for 50 minutes.
What do you mean? I say that never. I always go, oh crap, I didn't think of anything, and I try to think of something on the spot.
Except for the few episodes you're like, oh, I actually thought of a.
That's true. That's
question
it. Okay, how about this? I'm hungry for some pizza, and that's usually how I think of these questions. What I'm hungry for. I haven't had pizza in a while. Describe your optimal pizza toppings. What do you like on your pizza? And also, I mean, BaRRa's not going to think about any of this, but for Fine, who might be a little bit smarter, like what kind of crust are we looking? Yeah, what kind of crust are we talking about? You like it thin crust, a little bit thicker? You know, describe the type of cheese or sauce. Anything's in bounds here. Describe your perfect pizza.
Oh my goodness. Okay, my perfect pizza. I mean, I don't know if I have a really one above all like perfect pizza. I like a few. Buffalo chicken pizza, buffalo chicken ranch pizza.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe throw a little bit of arugula on there.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Ooh.
And
fancy.
Yeah. Just a little bit of greens, to make it a little bit healthy.
Yeah.
No, but that's probably one of my go-tos, and just like a standard pepperoni, just like a standard pepperoni, like New York style pizza. Just greasy as hell, like literally
nice and
dripping.
Thin.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice and thin. That too.
Okay.
As far as deep dish goes, or just like those really thick pizzas, I have a quick story to tell before we leave.
Please do.
When my dad had his apartment when we were younger, and me and my brothers were there one time, and we all got a stomach bug. But we got one of those DiGiorno deep dish pizzas, literally the ones where you like could take a spoon and just like eat it like soup. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And we all got a stomach bug one time. I think I threw up like 13 times over the course of like 3 days.
Holy God.
And every time that I think of deep dish pizza now, it just brings me back to that time. So it's one of those situations
I have
where
a
it's
story like that.
it's
Everyone
hard
wants to
for
hear
me to
about
eat
us
it,
puking.
so.
Yeah, everyone wants to hear about us puking. Whenever I was younger, do you guys remember those high C's? First of all, high C banging all the time. But do you remember the Ghostbuster high C's that were like green, like neon green? They were like plasma green.
Yeah.
I drank a bunch of those and ate a bunch of hot dogs and then got sick.
Oh,
and that
bunch of glizzies.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was rough out there. That was Ecto Cooler. That's it. Falcon Xerxes in the chat. Thank you. Good call. All right, BaRRa, go ahead with your pizza, and if I may make a prediction here. I don't know. I just say I want pepperoni.
I don't know. I just say I want pepperoni.
There it is. Yeah.
Funnily enough, me and Destiny actually kind of went vegan this week.
Oh.
So
like permanently or just for this week?
Well, we're trying it out. We're gonna try to get more like vegetable, like vegan meals in our diet.
Okay.
Because we watched a few documentaries this week. Because I got
did you
my
watch
vaccine.
that one about fishing? Like there's something about an ocean one. I heard about it on a podcast, not this podcast, but a different podcast. Don't listen to any other podcasts. Don't listen to any other podcasts. But anyways, no, if it wasn't that, that's fine. Seaspiracy, that's it. Yes, chat's spamming it. Seaspiracy. Zach Braff was talking about it on the Scrubs podcast, which is actually phenomenal. If you're gonna listen to another podcast, that one is acceptable.
It has to be that one.
I listened to a couple of them when I was driving the U-Haul down to up to Georgia.
Yep. Yeah, they're really good. Okay, go ahead, BaRRaCCuDDa, continue your vegan options.
So I assume just like a lot of vegetables. I'm a big fan of bell peppers right now. Broccoli is actually pretty good on pizza as long as it's cooked well. Mushrooms are really good as well.
Yep.
I'm kind of on the fence on onions, but I'm kind of more I like them than dislike them.
Good take.
And sun-dried tomatoes.
Yep.
Oh,
BaRRa.
So good.
First of all, you have to know that you're gonna have to get some fake cheese, of course, for your pizza to be vegan. Yep. But even for a vegetarian, let me tell you this: white sauce. This is my favorite vegetarian pizza. I worked in my uncle's pizza shop and we had like 1 million of these. White sauce, mozzarella provolone mix cheese, then spinach, sun-dried tomato, onion, and feta cheese. Banging.
That sounds good.
That sounds pretty good.
Banging
I can't
pizza.
eat cheese, but I mean,
right.
If there was vegan feta cheese,
it's banging. That's really good.
I thought a couple anchovies. I actually really like anchovies on pizza.
Really?
Or just anchovies in general.
I do not.
And if you've ever been to like Italian restaurant and gotten like the 4-cheese pizza where it's like, I don't remember exactly what cheeses they have, but it's just super cheesy.
Yeah. It'll normally
Like
be,
me.
if I had to guess, it would be mozzarella, pecorino, ricotta, and provolone.
Yeah, ricotta. Yeah,
ricotta's delicious. Yeah, ricotta's delicious. I love it. All right, I have a million different favorite pizzas, but if I will say that if I'm trying a pizza place and I want to verify how good it is, and I just want something basic, I'm a big fan of pepperoni and green pepper. That's my favorite like baseline pizza. Here's another pizza opinion for you. If you have sausage on your pizza, don't give me the like slices of sausage, okay? Those are bad.
Oh yeah.
I want the little crumblies. That's the little crumblies for sausage, delicious. They get crispy, they taste great. The no one wants the circles at all.
Hard to agree with that.
Yeah, get them out of here. Bacon on pizza's good. Bacon pineapple pizza's delicious. Ham bacon pineapple pizza's also delicious. If you're gonna have pineapple on your pizza, it needs to be paired with a fatty pork because that's what gives it the true sweet and salty combination. Cheese with pineapple, miss me. If you're adding bacon or ham, I'm in. That's the big thing that everyone wants to know though. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay for you two?
I mean, I'll eat it if it's in front of me, but I'll probably never order it.
Yep. Sometimes I get in the mood for a Hawaiian pizza.
I'm kind of the same. I love pineapple. Pineapple is one of my favorite fruit, and although how it does do horrible things to my mouth, it gives me so many ulcers. But I love pineapple, and I don't personally eat it on my pizza, but I would eat it if it was in front of me. But I will say that the people that are like just religiously against pineapple on pizza are a little bit crazy because throughout the entire culinary industry, people combine sweet and salty like with literally everything. So.
All the time. I know. It's ridiculous.
So just get off your high horses.
Seriously, enjoy some Hawaiian pizza, man. That's what you got to do. Thanks for everybody for watching and listening. Define, thanks for coming on. If you guys want to see, of course, the best solo lane content out there, twitch.tv/Fineokay, or on YouTube. He's posting YouTube videos all the time. He's got montages, all the kind of good stuff. Reminder that we just released our merchandise. So that's sector6apparel.com/collections/backliners, but it should be in the descriptions of this video and on the podcast and all that kind of stuff. And make sure you're checking all the other prediction stuff as well. Thanks everybody for watching / listening, and we'll see you next week. BaRRa, do the thing.
Bye. Also, buy Bolt's in-game stuff and Jade Dragon's in-game stuff. Thanks. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.